Doncic, spectacular play. And already an MVP candidate.
He'll definitely take that. Not intending to score there. Making big plays and big shots. 38 points, 13 assists, and 9 rebounds.
And all smiles for Luka Doncic.
Welcome back to The Jump. I'm Rachel Nichols here in Los Angeles with Paul Pierce, Robert Horry. Joining us remotely again is our friend Zach Lowe. And guys, let's talk about Luka Doncic. Started the season slow for him, putting up regular all-star averages of about 24, 6, and 6 over his first 4 games. But the last 3, he has taken off, dropping almost 33 points, 13 rebounds, and 10 assists per game. Zach, what's changed for Luka?
Probably nothing. Maybe he played his way into shape, but this was it's Luka Doncic. He's not going to slump forever. He's fine. We always overreact to these first 5 games. So if somebody's slumping, somebody's on fire, it all comes back normal. He's already shooting 70% at the rim again, getting anywhere he wants to go. The one area of concern, though, is his three-point shot, 31% last year. He's in the 20s now. That's got to get better for him to really, really reach the apex MVP level stage, I think. But that's coming along slowly. Everything else, you just got to give these guys time. He's Luka Doncic. He's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you said it right, Zach. I mean, he's getting his legs up under him. What you got to understand, it wasn't much of a preseason. They had about 2 or 3 games, and usually guys use that time to get in the game shape because it doesn't matter what you do in the offseason. Until you play those games, that's when you get in the game shape. And he used those first 4 games. He got his legs up under him. And this is the Luka Doncic who most of us predicted is going to be MVP this year, and he's playing at that level right now.
Yeah, he's playing at the MVP level. Like I said last time I was on the show, he was not in shape yet. Now he's rounding in shape.
No, you did. You called it.
And that's a big difference in this game. People don't understand when you have a shortened offseason, when you go long into the playoffs, you take even more of a rest in the offseason to get your body right because when you have a lot of minutes played like this guy, you take a pounding. So your body has a rest. And then when you come back, you kind of ease your way into it. And I think also everybody told him he was going to be MVP, so I feel like he had a little pressure on him. Yeah. Now he's starting to relax because when you put pressure on yourself like that, you try to do too much and your performance falls.
Yeah, and look, I know, and I talked to him about this before the Christmas Day game. He has a lot of experience dealing with pressure, right? He's been a prodigy since he was 13 years old. He's played with men older than him. That being said, being an MVP, Vegas's leading MVP candidate in the NBA at that age, I think you're right. I think it is a new level of pressure, and he just sort of was getting that with his physicality and legs getting under him. And then, of course, the next step is in this next week is when we expect Kristaps Porzingis to come back also. Robert, how much is that going to open up and change Luka's game?
I think it's not going to change anything because the way Luka plays, he controls the game in so many different ways. He puts people in the position to be successful, and that's the great thing about a point guard like himself. He can make everybody around him better. In this situation, when Porzingis come back, he's going to open the middle up more for him. Now he can drive. You don't have Steinley out there to clog up the middle, so he can drive more, kick it out for 3. So it's going to be trouble for a lot of teams in the West.
Yeah, especially if Porzingis could get back eventually. I'm not saying right away. He's going to eventually get back to where he was a year ago. That's going to spell danger for the rest of the league because at times where on the scouting report you'll double Luka Doncic, you can't do that now. Once you have Porzingis out there at times when you put them in the pick and roll, that's a scary thing to watch. Those two in the pick and roll, LeBron and AD, they're right up there with those guys as far as pick and roll 2-man games.
Well, and Dallas has already changed its starting 5 once. They're starting Cauley Stein and Maxi Kleber now. That lineup that we all thought we would see, Josh Richardson, Luka, Tim Hardaway, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Porzingis rounding it out, that has really, really big two-way potential. You got great offensive players and a few great defensive players, including KP, who's a really, really elite rim protector. That's the lineup I want to see, and I'm interested to see if Rick Carlisle goes to it once Porzingis is back, because that's the highest ceiling version of this team. But Luka is Luka no matter who he's on the floor with. But more talent helps.
Absolutely. Kleber, you mentioned really good last night. And the fact that they pulled out a clutch game is something that they hadn't done consistently last season. Luka had promised going into the season, we're going to have learned from our mistakes. We're going to be better at it. And in fact, last night they were. Now, if there's a winner, that means there's a loser. So on the other end of that game was the Nuggets. They are now 3-5 on this season. That's good for 12th in the West at the moment. Zach, I know you had the Nuggets when you did your tiers as being in a pretty good tier. So what has gone wrong so far this season?
Well, this one's easy. They're 28th in defense. And when you're 28th in defense, you ain't going to win a whole lot of games. And that's just the bottom line. If you're that bad, you're that bad. And it's going to look, they don't have great defensive personnel. They lost Jeremy Grant. They lost Torrey Craig. But they should be better than this. Gary Harris is solid. Will Barton is capable. Paul Millsap, JaMychal Green, PJ Dozier. They have guys that play defense. Even Jokic is not quite as bad as people make him out to be. He's not good, but he's not bad. Jamal Murray plays hard. Like, they shouldn't be this bad. And in the past, they've allowed a lot of threes and a lot of shots at the rim, and they got kind of lucky with teams missing those shots. This year, they're not allowing a lot of threes or a lot of shots at the rim. Teams are just making everything, so maybe some of it is a little bit of luck, but Denver just hasn't looked right. And to win in the NBA, these guys can speak to it. Like, if you play bad defense or you're 5% sort of dialed back in your effort level, these teams are coming for your heart every single night. They just got to be better.
Yeah, I also think so with the absence of Michael Porter Jr. You know, he's not known as a great defensive player, but what he does do, he gives them versatility in that lineup. You talk about a guy who you put him in pick and roll on the defensive end, he can switch out on the guards. He can slide his feet pretty good. He has length to block shots, and so I really think that hurts them not having him out there because of the protocol. And also, I'm not worried about the Denver Nuggets. They came back from down 1-3 in the playoffs twice.
So many times, Paul.
Come on. I mean, you're worried about Denver. You know, they're resilient. They're going to find a way.
Maybe that's their problem. They're thinking about that.
They're
thinking they can come
we'll
back.
Catch it up later.
Yeah, it's amazing the difference that one player can make. I look at this team without Jeremy Grant. They're not the same team.
Yes,
because you can look at a team and say, okay, what can I do? All of a sudden, the guy dives on the floor. He gets a dunk, and that gives you a spark. And you really need this now when there's no crowd in the stands to give you that extra energy. With him not being in this game makes a big difference because guys like this, like I said, you need them. You have them to guard anybody on the floor at any time. And now you're looking around like, okay, who's going to guard the best guy? We don't have anybody that can do that because Jamal Murray, we need you to stay fresh to put up points.
Now, Jeremy Grant being missing is somewhat divisive in terms of how much people think that matters. Zach, where are you on the Jeremy Grant spectrum?
A little lower in terms of how much it matters. I think his departure was a little bit overblown. I mean, for this team, it matters because he was one of their only options on those big wings. I just don't think he guarded those big wings as well as people thought he did. He doesn't rebound as well. He's better than what they had, but I do think collectively, and again, I think Paul's right. Michael Porter Jr. has not been a good defensive player in the NBA, but he's young. He's learning, and he's big, and he gives them some versatility and some more options about who can play with whom and what lineups they can play. I do think that matters. But I thought the departure of Jeremy Grant was a little bit overblown. I do think the Nuggets, with time, will get right. Their offense is unbelievable, but you know, Paul mentioned that MPJ's out because of coronavirus protocols. This season is just going to be weird. Guys are going to be in and out. Multiple guys are going to be in and out at the same time. It's going to be hard for teams to get their rhythm, and that's a little worrisome.
All right. Well, Zach, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you again soon. The rest of you stick with us on this show because coming up, Lonzo and LaMelo Ball face off as NBA players for the first time tonight on ESPN. What do you guys expect from this matchup going forward from the Ball brothers? Stick around. We will discuss all of it next right here on The Jump.